This is Ben Allen, founder of BC Allen Publishing Group and Tonic Books, a partnership publishing house. We made this interview for you. Why? Because it is our mission to usher into existence the world's next great wave of life-changing, world-altering books. One of those books could be inside you right now, and no writer can go from idea to bestseller alone. No writer has to. Be sure to check out the other resources we've created for aspiring and established authors and the dozens of interviews we've done with some of the world's best, brightest, and most successful New York Times bestselling authors, world-impacting movement builders, and influencers that reach millions of lives. Do enjoy. Okay, so I'm here with Sherry Welsh, who I've had the pleasure of working with in publishing, and Sherry is just an absolutely extraordinary human being who does a tremendous amount of valuable, incredible work with, in particular, with female leaders or women aspiring to be leaders in their lives or in their careers. And she also she's worked with men as well. I think her major area of focus right now is with women. Is that right, Sherry?
Yeah, I have a real passion for helping women as I was one of those in many years in male-dominated environment. And that's still the case for so many women that believe they have to make choices. I can either have a career or I can't. And so I'm passionate about that. But in interestingly enough, as my coaching career has unfolded, I tend to have more male clients because they are in those positions of utilizing coaching, creating different paths forward. So it's been great to be able to work with men to also create paths for more women.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, good. All right, we're going to jump into that stuff in just a minute here. I want to start with your bio, but yeah, just so much to talk about here. Okay, so for the folks listening, Sherry Welsh will show you your own power. You've always had it, but it's gotten covered up by constraints you believe in. Sherry's coaching creates an environment in which you can slow down, which is a phrase that will come up a lot in her work, and quiet the noise that comes from your situations, environments, and emotions. Within this safe space, Sherry will help you see new possibilities and directions and will help you question beliefs that hold you back from higher levels of performance. Sherry will then support you in taking steps towards what you want to achieve, testing different options, setting clear boundaries, and taking ownership of the choices you make both professionally and personally. So Sherry applies the principles of energy leadership to client situations, helping them to improve the way in which they interact with their colleagues, making them more effective leaders and communicators. Sherry Welsh's 25 years of experience in large corporations enable her to effectively and efficiently navigate clients through the challenges they are facing. And Sherry has a particular passion for helping professional women to have ownership of the choices they make for their lives and to create financial independence. I love all this stuff, Sherry, by the way. It gets me excited. Sherry Welsh knows the value of coaching from firsthand experience. She invests in her own personal development and will challenge clients to do the same. Okay, very awesome. Well, I'm super excited to have you here, Sherry. And this phrase, slowing down, let's start with that because that is also the name of your book. Slowing Down, Unexpected Ways to Thrive as a Female Leader. Will you tell us a little bit about how you came to that phrase, where, what sort of led up to that, to this, and it comes through your work a lot, and that whole book has just all these incredible ways to look at slowing down in your life.
Yeah. So working with you was a tremendous asset to developing all of the content in the book and how it came to be. But prior to that, I definitely had lived a life for many years. I was in manufacturing companies. I lived a life of getting more done in less time and cramming it in and pack the calendar with meeting after meeting, run from one meeting to the next. So that was a lifestyle that I was very used to. And when I got into my coaching and was working with my coach, Steve Chandler, I was getting frustrated with myself. I was being very tough on myself as I'm not doing enough. I'm not, creating enough clients. I'm not, working hard enough. I'm just not doing enough. And that came with speeding up and trying to do, pack in more. And my coach Steve had said, Sherry, the goal is to slow dance with the universe. And he had sent me a video clip of John Legend singing Slow Dancing. And that's really where it came from. That's, understanding that ability to slow dance with the universe was just so profound and so powerful for me that's what got me going on that topic, and has made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah, it's wonderful. What's that look like? Could you put that into like into a context for us? Like, what is slow dancing? It's such a wonderful phrase, and it's such an awesome idea. And I think that your personal background and relationship to it too makes it even more profound. Like, this is such a busy world, and especially when you're
Mhm.
succeeding in corporate America the way that you had been, then it takes this kind of fast paced life seems to be just a part of it. So slowing down, like, tell us a little bit about what that looks like, because you can actually be. My sense is that you can become more successful, so to speak, when you actually slow down.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's kind of the unexpected ways of it, right? That originally, when I was in global sales leadership in automotive industry, I was on an airplane all the time, and it was that, jet paced life of going from country to country, town to town, hotel to hotel, meeting to meeting, that I really didn't even appreciate what I had been exposed to and what experiences I was having. So in the sped up life, it's just kind of being on autopilot, going through the motions and being kind of numb to life. And slow dancing with the universe is really enjoying every moment that's being created. And what that looks like for me, I'm a single mom, and my son is a senior in high school now. And he's just an amazing inspiration for me. And it's, whatever comes in through the day in his life, whatever I may have had planned, may or may not, fit with what's the best thing to do next. And I'm okay with dancing with that and not trying to control it, not trying to plan everything. It doesn't mean that I don't have plans and I don't have a calendar that I manage. It means that I'm slowing down to choose whether I'm going to say yes to this or no, thank you. It's not something that fits for me right now, and be okay with that versus believing that I have to say yes to everything and I have to do everything and I have to fit it all in. So that's kind of what it looks like now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, absolutely right. It helps to relieve some of that pressure, or maybe this guilt or something that's like, "Oh, I need to do everything and I need to do everything perfectly."
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the things I love to ask people about, I interview a lot of all the people I've interviewed have been writing these nonfiction books that have a lot of awesome suggestions and advice, and I like to turn those to writers. So how would you, like, in your own writing process, and for anybody listening to this, how could you apply this concept of slowing down, or how did you perhaps apply this concept of slowing down to actually working through the book? So I think a lot of people get hung up in the process, so this might be a really valuable
Yeah.
tool for them.
Yeah, and I definitely was hung up on the process, as you know. I had spent 2 years prior to meeting you with another amazing man. He was a literary consultant that I had met and worked with. But I spent 2 years trying to write the book, and I had convinced myself that I wasn't a writer. I'm an engineer by education and background. So I had psyched myself out. I had believed that I can't write because that's not my thing. And so for 2 years, I struggled through it. I tried to get a ghostwriter. I thought maybe that was the path. And then by meeting you and really getting clear on the purpose of why I want the book in the world and how I want it to serve and help others was really, you helped me get clarity around that. You helped me get passion around that. And you helped me believe that I can do it myself in my voice.
Mhm.
And so what that meant was, slowing down in the writing process to each day, maybe write something, maybe not. And knowing that there were a couple gaps here and there where I didn't write anything for a bit. And then when I got these bursts of inspiration or bursts of energy that, you know what, I really want to get this done. I want to get this out in the world. I mean, that was my motivator. Then
Yeah.
I could write a bunch. So it wasn't like a clear process that I spent, 20 minutes every day. I am a very structured person from habit in the past. I'm not so much anymore, and that's okay. It's just a different type of structure, whatever you call structure. And so, yeah, so I learned how to not fight myself on it and not wrestle with it, because that's what I had been doing for 2 years, where I really didn't have any output. I didn't have anything, that was usable, let's say, or useful. to get towards a book. Where when I worked with you over that period of time that we worked together, which really was start to finish a year.
Yeah.
I mean, on Amazon within a year, and we really started fresh from scratch, and it was amazing how that was possible. And I probably could have done it faster, right? But it's okay that I didn't. It was beautiful that it took a year instead of 10 years.
Yeah. Well, Sherry, one of the things I absolutely love, there's two things that are coming up in your share about this. And it was a real amazing experience to work with you through the process. And, what I hear you saying is like this, you stop fighting yourself about it, and you kind of let the creative process be something like you let it be what it was. And I'm hearing that same thing in the way that you apply slowing down to your life. Is like, you have an idea, like you want to get this thing accomplished, right? You want to write the book, but you're not going to fight the world or fight yourself to do it. You're going to be kind of dancing with this, dancing with the creative impulses as they come up. And I think that is really good advice to writers. I love that. I mean, not only to write, to everybody in any context, but especially in the context of writing.
Yeah. And it is dancing with the timeline, right?
Yes.
That the timeline, timelines that we put on ourselves tend to be so constricting and pressure cookers that then dampen the creative process. And that's what I had been under, for a long time. So that I agree that I like the way that you summarize that.
Yeah. I also want to recognize you too, Sherry. One of the things that comes through in your book and I really, really strongly encourage people to read it in general and really look for this also. You do it so well. Is you share very openly and very honestly and very authentically with such humility and such insight. And you're doing that in the call as well. Like, it's just so inviting. I'm wondering if you have what your thoughts were about that, how you, why is that a part of the way that you are in the world? And is there thinking behind that? And in particular in the book, like some people I think have a lot of fear about sharing personally in a book, and some people maybe share more openly, but I'm wondering your thoughts about that, how that works with your kind of business and how that works in the context of your writing as well.
Yeah, I think that it's a great question, because I think it's an unfolding that continues every day. In the past, I tended to be the kind of leader in the companies I was a part of that was very inclusive, that loved to really be a part of the team and enjoyed the experience of getting to know them, getting to know their families, getting to know what was going on in their world outside of work, as well as during the workday, so that we could really holistically and completely understand how we were going to best manage the goals and objectives and priorities and things like that. So I was always used to being, in my mind, very open. A lot of people may have had different opinions, but what I've come to learn is it doesn't matter what someone thinks of whether I'm too open or not open enough. I have to say, though, honestly, that I got feedback in a conference once. I was doing coaching with this larger group, and it was an HR organization. It was around 30 people, and they gave feedback after the full day session. And I was working with them over a period of time, and I learned to no longer get feedback, because what I would do is zone in on any negative comments and forget about all the positive ones. And some of the negatives were I talked too much about my son, I used too many personal examples, that kind of thing. And that really struck me. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's the kind of world I live in. I mean, that's what I'm up to. I'm up to being a mom, a single mom with my son, and getting him on the road to independence and adulthood. I'm up to, all the things that I've experienced in the past and how they've now shaped who I am today to be even more open and loving and kind, because I've experienced so many, let's say, stumbles along the way. I'll use that phrase. And I found that is what people connect with, because we're all human and we're all in this together. And no one has it figured out. I really know that for sure. And I keep every time I had a client last week, this came up where he's like, Sherry, I want to be able to do this like you do. I'm like, what do you mean this? I mean, I lost it on my son last week. So it's not like I never get mad or angry or upset. It's, I'm dancing with it. I go there and I apologize and I figure out what got me there and I figure out maybe how I can do it differently next time. So yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, it's not like I by any means have this thing figured out yet. It's an evolution and I keep opening up more and more as a result.
Yeah, and then what happens when you're sharing this, like humanity, is that people feel connected and related to you. It
Yeah.
creates an opening for people to really have a powerful relationship.
Exactly. Otherwise, you compare yourself, right? That,
Yeah.
well, she has it all together, and I have so much I need to work on. Well, I don't have it all together, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's great because I don't want to live from that. That's a bit too constricting.
Yeah, and I think that works so much. Like when we're thinking about books, we will often want to think about like what's the impact on the reader, right? Like what's the experience? If the book is a tool, which this book really is, it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
Then you want to think about what impact is it going to have? How is it going to serve the reader? And that what you just shared about like being intimate and open and honest with your readers it's going to actually help their life. Now, not all books need to be written that way, but in this
Mhm.
context, it allows them to feel really, more connected with you. It also helps them feel, I think, understood.
Yeah.
And you're like, none of the stumbles that you have in there are really dramatic things. But nonetheless, like your attitude of just such acceptance and sort of warmth for so much that happens in life. I think that in itself, people can feel that and they kind of pick that up in the writing. It's almost like an unspoken, it helps people transition a little bit in their own thinking. They maybe judge themselves less being in the presence of you, this attitude of dancing with things.
Right. Yep. Yep. Agree.
Yeah, it's great. It's really cool, Sherry. So, and did you have any, when you were writing, I think a lot of writers think like, how much should I share? Is there a certain limit to that? And, what were you thinking? What were you thinking in the context of sharing? It was really about building those connections, right? That was the sort of underlying message
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think because there were moments when I could have shared a lot more,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I said, well, I don't know if that's going to be useful for the reader. Like you said,
Right.
in the context of who I wanted this book to be a tool for and how it could help them and who might benefit from what's in it as far as helping them see that they're not alone and that there's always options and always people in the world to help, and they want to help, and it's an honor and a privilege to help, because that's something I didn't do for a long time. I didn't ask for help,
Hmm.
and I think that there's certain things. There a lot of times it's not necessary to share everything. You can share the lesson that you learned in that situation. You can share the context of it, maybe another way of looking at it, but you don't have to get into all the details of it. And you helped me with that quite a bit, Ben, because I think, I don't know if you remember, but a lot of times I was going on into all this detail and you're like, well, okay, so what do you really want to say here?
Hmm.
And you helped me sometimes condense it in a way that was more powerful
Hmm.
than being too verbose, too run on.
Hmm.
So that was, so again, it's a dance, right? I
Yeah.
hate to keep using that, but it really, as it relates to that as well.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love the phrase dance. I think if we could have every aspiring and established author using the phrase dancing in their writing process, I think people would be a lot happier.
Yeah, I agree.
I love using that. Yeah, but and just to echo back what you're saying, like thinking about the purpose of the book, right? Is the book meant to serve? And if the book is meant to serve, always asking your questions in relationship to that. And that's what I hear you saying. Like, how is this going to serve? How can this serve more powerfully? And that's a very, very powerful guiding question to be living into. Yeah, it's good stuff. And Sherry, so you've also I want to hear a little bit about this as well, and then we're gonna wrap up in a few minutes here. But tell me about, like, you've gotten such beautiful emails from people that have experienced this book. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, how is this book impacting people? What kind of feedback have you been getting for it? How are you using it in your business? Anything like that feels like you'd like to answer any of those questions, I'd love to hear. what you
Yeah,
found out
yeah. So I have been, it's interesting. I've given the book quite a bit to women clients that I have. Some have read it, some have not,
Yeah.
interestingly. Um, those that have, and then I've given it to men as well that are clients of mine, and many of them have read it, and they really appreciated the genuine voice of that's coming through.
That's
They
awesome.
felt it was like I was sitting right next to them.
Oh, so cool. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and that was really exciting to hear that the way you were able to help me find my voice and write, enjoy the writing process
Yeah.
instead of struggle through it,
Yeah.
really has come through to clients of all genders. I apologize, I have a
Oh,
tickle in
that's
my
right.
throat. So yeah, so that's been really kind of not surprising, I guess, but nice to hear that
Yeah.
it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do in that regard.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, then how I use it and what I really continue to want to see it do. I went back to my university, my college in Pennsylvania, and I did a talk to the women in engineering, and I sent the book ahead of time so that they all had a copy of it. Well, they were supposed to be 20 or so people there. It ended up the auditorium filled with like over 100 students.
Hmm.
So I didn't have enough books for them,
Wow.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was really exciting to see the turnout. So the book had gotten enough interest that so many more people, both male and female, showed up for that session. And
Wow.
that was exciting to see that, the book is a catalyst. It gets things started.
Yes.
It gets a conversation started, and then the interest can spread from there. So that's really what I've seen it to be of use for as well. I've taken it into companies and given it to teams of people,
Yeah.
individuals as well. But a lot of times I give it to the whole team, and again, some of them on the team don't read it, and
Right.
many do. And those that do, feel like it's having me right there with them, and that it's reinforcing a lot of the leadership skills that we've talked about in the coaching sessions. Um, so it's being used as an enhancer, to the coaching that we do, or to something else that they may have experienced, or something else in their life that they already knew, and so it's an enhancement to that, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love it. It's really cool. It adds to it. It creates more conversation and more context. It reinforces the things that they're learning in these other places. It gets them an
Exactly.
intimate experience with you. Yeah, that's all really rich, valuable stuff, I think, for aspiring authors. And
Yeah.
sir, tell us a little bit about what you're up to. So I want people, I know the impact that you have on people's lives, and just what an incredible coach and consultant and leadership leader really you are. I want to hear like a little bit about what you've got going on, what you have coming up, where people can find you.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at doing some leadership lectures at the College of Charleston. That's something that I'm working on. I have some women's programs that I'm co-developing with Melissa Ford. She's in Chicago, and I'm down in Charleston, South Carolina now. And so we're putting together some programs that'll be coming up hopefully this spring. And it's mostly geared towards women, but it's not excluding the men by any means. Uh, but we're both very passionate about helping women step into their greatness and their beauty, and loving the careers that they choose to pursue, loving the families they get to create, the friends they have, everything coming together. So that we're really excited about. We're working on that with our joint coach Steve Chandler. And then my own coaching is continuing to evolve. I just am starting with a new client who's the head of IT, and she is she's working with a lot of men in the IT world. So it's a perfect client that I'm really excited to spend some time over the next 8 to 9 months working with her on how she can really shine in her current position. She loves the work she does. And so I'm going to do more and more of those individual clients in that respect. I have some teams I continue to work with in the automotive industry and other industries that I really enjoy the time I get with groups and the leaders of those groups. So individually with the leaders, but also the leader and the group together. That's where I found the power of coaching, and everything I've learned up to this point is really, really useful. So that's
Right.
that's a little bit of what's going on.
Yeah, awesome. And what's your website? Is that where
What
is
is
that the best people? Is that the best place for people to find you online? Is through your website?
It is. It
Okay.
is. It's sherrywelsh.com.
Yeah.
So Sherrywellsh.com.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that
Awesome.
I have created some podcasts, Ben, that
Oh,
I'm
you have.
really excited
Awesome.
about.
Yeah. Tell us
Yeah,
about those.
they're out on the website, and they're under resources podcasts. They're audio recordings. A lot coming from the book is the backdrop of it, the slowing down.
Yeah.
And so I talk quite a bit about what's in slowing down, what's in energy leadership, and they're just short, sometimes 10, sometimes 20-minute audios that I'm co-creating with Phil Johnson. So it's a little bit like what you're doing here with me. He interviews me, and we have conversation about different skills and different scenarios that show up for leaders in the world, everyone out there, not just women, but men and women. And it's really exciting. So that's again a compliment to the book is the
Wow, very
audio.
cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That's excellent. Yeah, definitely say I strongly encourage people to check that out. I'll have to check that out as well at some point. And Sherry, it was so fun to have you on this call. I've got one last question before we end here. If you have any advice for aspiring writers, and I know you've been like you worked through the process, you've got this book done, like you tried all kinds of different methods. It's just it's great your ability to come back to the phrase, to dance with this. Maybe that is the advice. I'm not sure, but what is the one piece of advice you give people who want to write a book or create a book that's going to help their business?
Yeah, I would say get it done, right? Make it happen.
Yeah.
And whatever that means, whatever that looks like, it could take 2 months, it could take 2 years, doesn't matter. And it is dancing with that process of getting it done, but get it out there, because it's not serving anyone being in your head and being an idea. It becomes useful in the world and becomes really a gift to everyone if you get it done, get it out there. You, Ben, have made it such an easy process, so enjoyable to work with you in creating a book from start to finish with your team. So it's so easy to do, and there's absolutely no reason why anyone can't create one. So I would say make it happen.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Yeah, and I really like what you're saying about it's get it out of your head so it can start serving people in the world. I think that's awesome. Sherry,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have you on this call with me, and I just really appreciate you and what you do in the world. So
Thank you, Ben. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for asking me.
yeah, of course. If you want more interviews like this, check us out at tonicbooks.online. In addition to other resources, we've made dozens of interviews like this to support aspiring and established authors who want to write, publish, and market their book with ease and impact. For more details, check out the description below.